Hi, I'm Katie with Joyful Forklift, and this is Moriah. Moriah, thank you for sitting with me in this beautiful space today and taking the time out of your very busy life. You're actually on call currently as a birth doula midwife.
Yeah.
So thank you for being present when at any minute you could bring a baby into the world. I respect that a lot. So I wanted to share with our listeners today why I know you, how this came to be, because it's a little story, but to me it feels like a really lovely representation of what you do, because you did it for me and I was neither pregnant nor dying. But it's so our listeners might remember that I was sort of in this place of not knowing what to do next and asking a question really for the first time. What do I want and where should I put my feet,
Mm-hmm.
And I had reached out to some people about potentially, getting a master's in social work, which is a very specific long-term path. And then that didn't feel right. And one of the nurses that I ended up talking to gave me your name. And she was a nurse in the cancer center in close to where we live. And I emailed you and you wrote me back and you're like, sure, I'll give you, a few minutes and don't talk too much. And which is a thing for me. So we talked, and in that time, it was like, I could feel that you make space for things to transition, because the way you listened to me was so gentle and like present. And I didn't know you. I couldn't see your face, but over the phone, Mike will remember after I spoke with you, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just went through something, and
Cool.
you told me, well, you're talking about what it was to be a death doula a little bit, but what you did is you turned the mirror back to me to go and feel into what is really true, but also to bring in, any spiritual practice I have, and to bring that question to that place and trust that, which is such a gorgeous thing to have somebody do. We should all do that. Like, it's intuition, but it's also, bring that energy and that, I don't know, the spirit nature into questions in your life and listen. And it wasn't but a few days later that in the middle of the night, I couldn't sleep. And the idea of talking to people about joy felt so right from a deep place. And here we are. And with all this equipment that we bought since that, we're doing it. And so I would like to thank you publicly for birthing an idea that I didn't think I was worthy of, or certainly not a monetary, plan or a financial plan that is clear, but has been perhaps one of the most fulfilling things in my life. And I'm so grateful for what you did in those 20 minutes. So now that we're face to face, I'm ready. Whatever you throw out there, I'm sure.
Amazing.
So thank you for showing up that way, all with a total stranger.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. It just reminds me of we don't know. We can connect with somebody, whether it's for 20 minutes or whether it's just for 1 minute at the grocery store, or whether it's, for longer, but the influence that we can have and just how that ripples out into your life. So yeah, that's really cool. I have the honor of connecting with lots of beautiful humans that are in transition and supporting them and being that reflective mirror. And that's certainly my intention. And so it's cool to hear that that was what you experienced and that it was supportive for you on your path.
It was.
And then here we are.
Oh,
cool.
So my first question is, where on your path have you felt deeply grateful and tapped in to who you are, grateful for who you are. You know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, I'm just exactly doing what I want to do or in a place where I want to be. And I'm so grateful to be in this body and this person right now.
Yeah, that's a deep question.
I know. I don't really know how to do small talk.
Yeah, I love it though. And like this opportunity to be like, okay, like it's a journey. It's a journey, I think, for everybody. And for myself, I would say that I came into this world with like a really deep understanding. Like there's the nurture and the nature theories of how we come in. And I think that, I came into a family. I was gestated in a womb. My mother's womb was very, very loving. And my parents had a lot of love and connection between them. And so I think that I'm a birth midwife and a death doula, and also work in the field of pre and perinatal psychology, which is like a whole other field, which is very related to our earliest experiences before we have conscious memories. And so it's interesting that this is coming up for me. Like there was something, I think, maybe in that womb space that was safe at that time, which is not super common. I think a lot of people have really different experiences. And so I think that I was conceived in love and yeah, so there was something about my soul journey that like both gravitated me into that place and then also, gestated me in that place of connection. And upon my delivery, my mom didn't let me go and just held me tight. And those things are really essential. I know as a midwife working with other families and supporting other families who are wanting that for their children, but didn't necessarily have that when they were coming in. And so I think it goes way back, and certainly my life hasn't like been daisies and rainbows all along.
What?
There's really, really challenging things that have come about, but I had a really solid foundation. And so there was just this knowingness in me and this knowingness of like, I heard my midwifery calling when I was 11. My mom gave me the book, Our Bodies, Ourselves, and just was like, here, read this. It's like a Bible of women's health. And it was written by a midwife. And so there's something in me that has been clear about my path and my purpose. And that has been really settling and has helped me in those places where the ground has crumbled beneath me, like having this sense of self. And so I think it's always been there. And
That's
I'm
beautiful.
super grateful for that. Like, and it gives me strength, right? It gives me strength to then like go forth and do the work that I do that is super intense and requires, so much of me, requires so much of my children, requires so much of does that answer your question?
Oh my gosh, it so answers my question. It's so what a beautiful perspective. Sometimes I forget to have gratitude for the families who are able and have the tools to imbue their kids with love, because you forget the ripples that creates in the world when you have that knowing of your inner stability, right? Then what can you do with that? Like the service, right? And that's, I think we forget to be grateful for what that is. It's really powerful. Thanks to your parents.
Yeah, totally.
Having a good womb and like I've never heard anybody say that before, which is a testament to probably how rare that is, but also you're tapped into that knowing. Yeah. That's beautiful.
It's reminding me, I did a postpartum appointment yesterday with this family, and I do this thing called supported attachment, which is like the breast crawl. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Where the baby works
crawls
their way
up and self-attaches, which is just super cool and primal and amazing. And I did it with the family yesterday,
Oh.
and the baby found her way to the breast, and she struggled along the way, and she cried, and the parents were with her, and we talked through her birth story, and then she attached, and like it helped reorganize her latch and like all this cool stuff. And it was like I was just sharing with the family how the ripple out effect that will have in her life of like knowing that she can get to nourishment. It was a really cool experience. I'm kind of
through struggle.
Yeah, through struggle. And the dad was crying, and he was like, "She's a Wenzel. She's a Wenzel. She knows how to work hard and get where she needs." It was just really cool.
That's incredible.
So I'm still kind of feeling the high of experience with that family.
Well, speaking of like the high of watching that, I'm curious for you, how would you define joy for yourself? And if you're able, how would you differentiate between joy and happiness?
Yeah, that's a good question. How do I find joy for myself? And that question around joy and happiness, I think for me, joy, like I have this thing in my life, or this image that is helpful for me, and it's the mala beads. And I'm not like I'm a deeply spiritual being, but I'm not a deeply religious being. And so I feel like there's so many on-ramps to God or to Great Spirit or whatever it is, right? But there's something about mala beads, and I know there's like rosary beads, and lots of different cultures have these beads. But I think about it in my life of like the joy is like the space in between the beads, where it's like it comes and it's there. And when it's there, I want to just like bathe in it and just let it saturate my being and like appreciate when it's there, knowing that soon I will have to climb over another bead, right? Like another challenge is right around the corner, but that there's like these spaces in between. And so I try and connect with that space, however it shows up, right? Whether it's like a moment with my kids where I can actually drop in and be present with them and not be distracted by all the things that are pulling me in so many different directions, right? Or like a moment to feel the sun on my face. Like that brings me so much joy. Or, getting my hands in the earth. We talked about gardening, right? Yeah. There's like all these different things, but then just knowing that it's going to come back around, but there's challenge in between. And then it feeds me, it like fills my cup so that I have a greater bandwidth to be able to withstand whatever the challenge is, right? And just be like, okay, like I can be in this hard space, and it's just the expansion and contraction, and it happens on, the micro and the macro, and
totally
in so many different ways. But it's interesting, this question around joy and happiness. I don't think I've ever really given that much thought, like what the distinction is, or like the expansion of looking at them. I haven't really given a whole lot of thought.
Well, and I hadn't either. There's something about the word joy that feels different to me. And so I'm curious how people look at that. And of course, you can go to dictionaries and look at that. But what you just said about the mala beads, a lot of people have talked about joy as this infinite resource within themselves. And hard to notice in every situation, hard to use it. But I wonder also, like as you crawl over the bead, if that string, if that runs through it, it's like it's there. You can't always see it. You're going through a process, but it connects everything. I don't know. That felt like for me, that felt like a really powerful image.
Yeah. That's cool. That's like, what the foundation underneath or at the center
Yeah,
or
it's always
whatever.
there holding it
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
Yeah, I really resonate with
I
that.
like
That's
that
cool.
too. Yeah. I'm going to take that one.
Just
Yeah.
take that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So the concept of like your sense of your depth as a young person in particular, and being able to see the ripples of a baby crawling up the mother's torso. I mean, I'm probably going to cry a lot, just so you know, in this interview. It just like, it feels so profound, all of this to me.
Yeah.
So forgive the mess.
I get some tissues.
Okay, or not. Let's just like see what happens.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, how aware are you of those moments when you're working with families and the dying, or families and the birth process, how pivotal a moment could be and the ripples that it has? Are you aware of that all the time?
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm that's not a very clear
tell me more
question.
about like the awareness.
So maybe this is coming from a personal journey, but there are moments when I am present, which, is work, with my children, and I'll think this is part of their childhood, this moment, and whatever I choose to do right now is like foundational, potentially, or to their detriment, right? And that's it feels a little bit like time traveling to me, and having that perspective. And because you work so closely with the veil, like for me, birth and death have been foundational, pivotal experiences in my life, and that's what you do all the time, like that's to me it feels so profound that you walk in these moments for people that change the trajectory of their lives, and maybe you walk away from them, but it's like the rest of their life happens from that point. That's so bananas to me. And I'm just it's not really a question, but I was curious if you could share more about what that is like for you to walk into those spaces and be a part of it.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things here, right? Like I'm kind of getting a little bit more around like, do I have the awareness of how pivotal those moments are in the moment? And I would say not necessarily, kind of apropos of the story you shared, where I'm like, sure, let's get on the phone for a little bit. And then, out of that unfolded this big thing.
Yeah.
And I think one of my mentors, his name was Ray Castellino, and he was this brilliant human that taught me about this pre and perinatal psychology. And I got to be one of his death doulas before he died, and he's just amazing. But one of his last teachings before he passed was this concept of the field, and that there's something greater that's holding us, right? Like there's something more that we can't necessarily see, but it's holding us. And I'm fascinated by like quantum physics and like all these things that like point to there's something more.
Yeah.
Right. And it touches on like spirituality. It touches on that veil space that you're talking about, that space in between. And so he really taught me, like brought words and awareness around like there's something bigger that I as a practitioner can lean into. And it takes away the pressure for me of having to like be responsible for holding space. Like it's it's a lot to hold that space. Or, hearing what you're saying like about the kids, or like this is like this really pivotal moment. Like, yes, and like there's something greater. And if I can let go a little bit of my sense of responsibility and like lean into that, then I can sense that like, oh, my kids or whatever family I'm serving, like they're just on their path. And I get the honor of being in this moment with them. With my kids, obviously it's way bigger, but with these families, I have these moments where I can be with them. And my intention in those spaces is like, how can I be a vessel? Right? Like I always said, like as a midwife, I have this great honor of receiving babies. It's so cool.
I
It's
can't
so
even
cool.
imagine what that's like.
Just being in that place, right? And
Oh.
like these hands that have like caught these beautiful slippery babies and and just getting, I always say, that my hands, like my job as a midwife is to open up and let God come through my hands. God being a word that resonates with me and many others, right? And so somehow like allowing this higher power to work its magic through me. But it's not me that's doing that. And then that helps me to not feel so much pressure to like get it right or remember all the things, or sometimes my brain goes blank, and sometimes those are the best moments because then so I don't know if that answers.
No, that so does. And it's teaching me about the tricky wicket of the ego when you're in moments like that, because it's easy to think this is mine, I have to hold this space. So I was an educator, I still am, but in a classroom for a while, and the seat of the teacher, like that term has been thrown about, but it also, to your point, puts so much pressure on the teacher to essentially be God. And that is dangerous because if you attach too much to the lives that are happening in front of you, I think most teachers burn out, a lot of us do. So that is so powerful. And I'm also struck by the fact that you're leaning into the field and letting go. What a strong mirror for both the birth and death process, which essentially is about letting go. So if you're bringing that intention and you're doing that work internally, I can imagine it makes it a heck of a lot easier for people to find to mirror your work, right? Maybe without words, but that's got to be really effective just from a practitioner's perspective. So
I love, we talked a little bit, we have this connection around music.
I was thinking about that too just now.
It's like coming into resonance, coming into that resonant frequency and tuning that chord. And that gets into all this cool stuff around co-regulation and, how we interact as humans and healthy human ecology and like things that get me really excited. But
tell me about the things that get you really excited.
The things that get me really excited definitely are related to ecology. Like ecology, I'm fascinated by ecology. I went backpacking last week and I was like, looking at all this magical nature. Just like if I wasn't a midwife, I wasn't called to be an author, I'd be a biologist. Like I'm just fascinated by how Mother Nature is so perfect in everything, and the evolution and the adaptation and genes and viruses and all that stuff just fascinates me. And then I get curious about human ecology. I'm like, okay, so we humans obviously are so deeply interrelated with natural plant biology and all of the things in nature, but also with each other. And I think that one of the greatest symptoms of disease in our culture is disconnection and isolation and people feeling disconnected. And, I'm fascinated by like this concept of like, it takes a village. Like, we say that so much, right? It takes
we
a
do
village.
say it a lot.
Because it's true. It really is true.
Do we do it? And how do you do it?
And how do we do that? So that gets me excited, just like thinking about how we can, as humans, rebuild that, talk about in this book, like mycelial connections. Like I'm just fascinated by how trees and, just trees, but then of course the trees are connected with the air and the water and the earth and everything, but like how they support each other and how when there's a grove of trees and one tree is malnourished in some way, that the trees around it will feed it nutrition and strength or whatever it is underground through these mycelial networks. And I'm like, that is fascinating to me. And then I'm like, how do we do that as humans?
How do we
Like,
do that?
what are those energetic threads that connect us that again relate back to the field and relate back to like something bigger is going on?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So pause game. You just wrote this book because so I just need to make sure people know that so much of what you're talking about can be tapped into in this book. This is how to show up for the dying and their loved ones, what to do, what to say, and why didn't you write this 15 years ago? Just kidding. It is. So please check that out because what you're saying is like pulling threads out of this. And when I read this, and I forgive me for not having the time to read it as deeply as I wanted to before this interview, but I sure will go back. And I've already told a bunch of people about it. But the ecology, the way that you talk about the energy in, energy out, and how nature doesn't waste energy hit me so hard. That is a place of healing that I am still working on. And I was just telling Mike, we just were asked to play and perform for a memorial service for a young woman who took her life, and she was an acquaintance of ours, and it's a very intense thing to do. And this may have been my 250th. So I've done so many memorial services, which is different than being a death doula, but being adjacent to it in a unique way as a musician. And I'm like, oh, I have all this wisdom. And yet after that performance, somebody came up to me and hugged me and said, that was just so powerful and beautiful. You're so beautiful. And I think she's just talking about what that gave, that gift, right? Like you were saying, it's not really me, it's the thing that's coming through me. But my response, which I'm like working through, was, well, you're beautiful too. Meaning I couldn't take it.
Receive.
Yeah. And I'm like, I've done so much work. Like, how did that happen? But, and yet what you're talking, not to make this, that story, but that is just was such an important touch point for me about learning the ecology of relationship. And when people are going to give you love and joy to restore you, to learn how to receive it and then use it later. And I'm so curious about how that's influenced your work and have people like, have you seen change in villages popping up around you because of what you're doing? I mean, that was so powerful for me to see that written down,
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what you're referring to is this idea of like giving and receiving,
Right.
and how for so many of us, it is easier to give than it is to receive. And the book is about learning how to give, right? Like learning how to step in to support the dying and their loved ones, and kind of confronting those barriers that we face and how to do that, and our fears of doing and saying the wrong thing, or whatever kind of inhibits us from the act of giving. And then, really highlighting that the act of receiving is equally important.
Right.
And it's part of those broken strands of our human ecology that prevent us from feeling comfortable in those places. And, without getting too much into like how those strands got broken and, what's all there. There's a lot there, but this piece around learning how to receive being equally important, because like you're saying, nowhere in nature are they separate.
No.
Everything gives and receives. That's the natural flow of earth and universe, and all of creation has this giving and receiving. And so I'm fascinated by that, and I'm learning about that myself always, how to receive. And it's definitely easier for me to give. And so I try and create opportunities for myself to receive, but I can relate to that experience that you had, right? And turning it back around, being like, oh, I don't know how to just receive that. But then when we do, then what a gift that is to the giver.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, you really heard
You
me.
heard me.
Yeah.
And I know that, right? I'm learning
Yeah.
that when somebody gives you something, it's as much as I want to give something often. It's in the same gesture of like, no, this is unconditional. But we
Yeah.
question that because, of course, in our histories, it often isn't.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
yeah. So I'm just fascinated with how can we learn to love ourselves enough to receive love, and then to give it, how do you do that?
Yeah, that's a profound question. And that takes me back to that string that you talked about in the center of the beads, right? So, what in this work of pre and perinatal psychology, there are these concepts of blueprint and imprint. And the blueprint being like our original design, like that part of us that existed before conception. Like there's some energy that we come from, and there's some energy that we go back to. That's my sense. Everyone has different beliefs around that, but that's my feeling is that there's somewhere that we come from and somewhere we're going back to. I have no idea where they are, but in that space, there's like a purity of being and a health of being that is like doesn't have that question of like how do I I can't remember even what you said, but like how do I connect with joy or
right. And then it's such a good point. Like there are some really beautiful things I've read, and I'm terrible at quoting accurately, but like from Buddhist philosophy, that the second you ask how, you're not doing it. Like when you start putting process and language, you're losing that it's just a being, right? Like a state of being.
Yeah, but so many struggle with that, right? Because of what you said around like, maybe that wasn't available or we didn't have that reflected back to us or the womb wasn't safe or whatever. So this idea of blueprint being like this health of our soul or our being, and that as we kind of step down into human form, from my understanding, we begin to be imprinted with different experiences, right? And that begins at conception, where I've come to understand. And, we come in contact with our ancestral lines and all of the information that's there through our DNA. But, that's the DNA is kind of on that physical level, but there's also the energetic level and what's going on with our families. And so there's all this imprinting that happens throughout our lives, beginning really, really early, and it just continues to happen. But underneath those imprints is our blueprint. Like our blueprint of health is always there, right? And so for me, that is helpful for me when I am in my own state of reaction or, out of alignment with what the energy that I want to be, holding inside of myself or with my children or whatever, to remember like, that's not necessarily me. Like there's imprinting that happened that created these patterns that show up in my relationships or whatever.
Right.
But underneath that, I have a connection with something much deeper, that line that carries through. And so I think that's how I do it in myself, and that's how I do it with others. So like a big part of the work that I do is about helping people recognize and reconnect with their blueprint. Like reconnect with that and do some, I have all these exercises and tools for like differentiation from the imprinting. Like how to like kind of take that imprinting and put it out here a little bit so that we can observe it, but not be consumed by it at all times.
Wow.
This is so heavy.
That's so heavy. Yeah, and it seems wrapped up in ego too. We get like what that imprint means, its weight and its value to us, and the scripts that we have. So especially around birth and death,
Yeah.
So that's really powerful.
Big times.
Those are big times. So you're around the big times a lot. And I'm curious, what do you have big global messages you would like to broadcast about the importance of showing up in those big times? Because I don't know, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, those big times have brought these just really powerful gems of wisdom, maybe blueprint thinking, that I couldn't quite get in other places. And it feels to me that there is certainly in this culture a separation that a whitewashing or whatever you want to call it, a sterilization between birth and just our daily lives and death and our daily lives. And many of the people I've spoken to talk a lot about death, and I'm like, well, there's something there. What is it about looking at it and experiencing, a birth or a death and its relationship to knowing who we really are and those blueprints?
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool to hear you say. I think that there's like there are peak experiences that really strip us to our core.
Right.
Right? Like the birth and the pregnancy and becoming parents and just like the transformation that we go through. We've all been through that as parents, right? Of like individual and then you come into, partnership, and then, wow, that brings up your stuff. And then you become parents, and then
really brings up
your stuff. And so they're like extreme moments that are so deeply, there's so much potential there. Like everything is to the max, right? Like the overwhelm to the max and the love to the max. And like, it's just,
and the question of what matters to the max. I think that on all levels for birth and death, that's always there for a lot of people,
Yeah, what matters, and what I find what matters most is support. And that feeling of not being alone in the process, because that's also part of those broken strands, right? Like this idea of separation, which is not actually real, right? Like we're here sitting next to each other, but we're also like, we're breathing the same air, and we're like connected in this space, and it feels so good, and it's nourishing, right? And I feel the joy in my body. It radiates out of my eyes, and it just feels so good. And so that idea of support and how essential that is, and how we can, and so that's like birth, and then you come into death, and that's also just a time when people need so much support. It's so extreme. It's so extreme that the needs that are being placed on, and that, it comes back to the village. Like if we really lived when we lived, and those who do, just to say, because there are many, many cultures around the world who still function as a living organism within their communities and have these intergenerational layers of support, I think of, right? Like there are many, but here in our Western world, so many of us are living far away from those we love and have these deep ties with. And, so how to like rebuild that support. And for me, and, why I wrote this book was, if we can learn to show up for each other and kind of be with, because we can't necessarily overcome, but like be with the discomforts in those extreme places, especially the dying process, because birth has joy.
Yeah.
There's so much joy with this being, right? And with death, there's so much grief. And that is like, whoa, really uncomfortable.
Yes.
Really hard to be in a state of grief, and really uncomfortable to be with others in a state of grief, which I think ties back to how we are with babies and how we can be with babies and their discomfort, and whether that was allowed or not allowed when we were young. Like, were we allowed to cry?
And how did we handle discomfort?
There's so much there, right? Yeah. But if we can learn to show up for each other, if we can learn to show up for each other in those most extreme times, and know that like we're not going to get it right, that is absolutely impossible, then I think we can, I just feel like we can learn to show up for each other at all times, no matter what's going on. You have a baby, or someone's, going through some health challenges, or someone's moving, or someone's just tired and had a hard day, or
Totally.
so.
Oh, that you just gave me I was just thinking about this image. It's just popped into my head. Do you remember? No, you're a science person. Do you remember in whatever it was, 8th grade or something? And they're like, see, when you put only big rocks in the jar, you can't fit a bunch of stuff, right? But when I just thought it was such a great visual, right? And so it was something like, how much more can we fit in? And it's just big rocks. And then you can put in smaller rocks and even finer sand or whatever. And then I think about, well, you could also fit water through all of that. Maybe in this metaphor that I'm making up on the spot, the water is like the string. But to me, I am learning from you and this book where I think for me that maybe the ego, the narcissism of, I'm going to sit with this person and take their pain away. I can do it. Just kidding. I can't do it at all. I don't want to be here. I can't fix it. That loop is like big rock thinking instead of like you talk so much about, and I'd never thought about this before, the layers of support and supporting the supporters. That I'm so embarrassed. That's a new concept to me. I mean, of course, it's like, of course, there are different layers of support when a person dies. But when my father was dying, there was no concept of this person could be this for me. And that person, I can be that for that person. Maybe not, like looking at a community in a village as an ecosystem with different levels of input and support it lessens the pressure and it takes away maybe the individualist thinking that we have in our culture, that narcissism, like, well, I don't want to do this because it'll take everything. It'll kill me, It doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to. But it's a shifting of a whole paradigm of like how, I mean, just from the individual of this concept of like, I can do it all by myself, right? Like I'm strong. I can do it all by myself. And it's like, wow, that's actually so not natural.
No. And it feels like weakness to me these days, like trying to manhandle life in that way and be strong looks like that loneliness that I think is heartbreaking.
It's too heavy.
It's too heavy.
It's too heavy, right? So then there's like all these different ways that we can lean in, right? We talked about like leaning into the field, which is this something greater that's holding us all.
Right.
That is like such a potent layer of support for me when I go in. And then, but these human to human connections are so essential. And how we learn from each other and how your vibrational frequency like comes into my being and then, teaches me about new things. And then like just the evolution of our culture. And that's a really important piece of this, I talk about like finding your place in the web. And it could be that when someone is dying that we never have contact with them or their primary support person, but we can see that there are others who need support and we can kind of find our place to fill in those small stones, right? And to bring the water and
totally. And then in that is meaning. And I think joy when you can see there's a need and I have this amount in my cup and I can give it, you know?
Which is cool. That circles me to like, as I was thinking about being on this podcast with you and this idea of joy and like, there's something about purpose, right? I've been doing these interviews with loved ones over the last year around having conversations around their experience of contemplating their own mortality. Like, I think that's super valuable. And I've been really curious about that as I there's the book and then there's the workbooks and the trainings and all the things that are coming. But this idea of finding purpose is so essential, I feel like, to that settling into a knowingness of oneself and being able to cultivate joy and understand what joy is. And, and then we think about end of life and like looking back at on our lives and what do we want our legacy to be, or what do we, what's our thing? And this piece around purpose is so potent. And
Yeah, I agree. And I'm curious about how, like, our framing of purpose, I think for some people, purpose is clear when you're 11, and it just comes to you and you're like, this is what I will do. And it will look different in different lights, but it's, it's your path was so strong. But for others, that's hard to find. And what does that mean in the ecosystem? And how do we do, because I think our culture tends to inflate purpose as something that has high impact, high legacy, and I'm not so sure that that's everything. And I remember, are you familiar with who Charles Eisenstein is?
I love it.
Okay, well, I don't remember where he said this or in what book. See, I'm horrible at quoting things, so just get used to that. But I think he was talking about influence, I think, and impact, and asking the question, well, and he made this up, I'm pretty sure, but is Oprah the deeply impactful person, or is Oprah's grandmother who put so much love and energy? I don't even know if this happened to Oprah, but this is, I remember he just said he used her as an example, and focused that love, and then the grandmother passes, right? And she doesn't receive the awareness and the gratitude from the community that receives Oprah. But that is her purpose. And I think my question is all about awakening to what purpose can look like instead of what we say it should, in our culture. Do you have a sense of that? Like how, I don't know, or advice for people as they're trying to navigate, well, what does purpose actually mean? Because people have a lot of thoughts about what that means, especially as you're trying to find joy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people struggle with that deeply, right? Of finding purpose. And then there's so much that's connected, like you're saying, around purpose being related to like our professional lives or productivity, right? So much around productivity, right? Yes. And then people are like, oh, just that struggle. And I can't say that I necessarily have advice around finding purpose, but there's something that is landing in me just as we're talking around this piece of finding our place in the web, like finding our place in the ecology of our local community, right? Because there's the ecology of our families, but our families, for most of us, are separated and all over the country. That's the case with me.
Same.
But then I live in this community with these beautiful humans that are also separated from their families. And so I find a lot of purpose by doing the work that I do within my local community. But it doesn't have to be like the work. And when I say like the work, I'm not talking about my professional career as a midwife or whatever. That happens to be a very purposeful job, right? Calling.
It's a miserable word.
It's really quite something, but on a more simple and more deeply profound level, right? Like how can I grow food and give it to my neighbors or whatever it is? And so I think the invitation that I want to offer is around like, exploring how, like, just really simple ways to become engaged in the local community, and that it doesn't have to be this big thing, right? Like not everyone is here to write a book and do the thing and be at the big places. And many times it brings tears to my eyes, like many, many times I don't want to be in the big places, right? Like I really don't want to. It was so hard for me to accept this calling that I have to be to go forth and talk about death and dying. Like, right, like there's all of my internal resistances to that. And that's just my internal place. But like, yeah, I guess the invitation is just to like start small.
Yeah.
And just
see a need.
Yeah.
It's like
look
the observation
around.
of the ecology around you, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And see what's needed, and are you a fit for that potentially? So it seems like maybe purpose is one way to look at it in terms of joy and fulfillment and contentment has to do with your relational position in the ecology, not so much, how many houses you have. Or, I mean, that's a thing, but I don't know if it has the same depth of meaning. Yeah.
And that there's this magic that each one of us has, right? Like that's what I love about this concept of the blueprint and this idea that like I think there's some sort of universal blueprint that we're all connected to, especially in that preconception place. Like there's some energetic frequency, whether it's God or I don't know, right? Something bigger that we're all connected to. And yet we also each have an individual blueprint and like something that is magical about us. And those imprints that we receive as we travel through this life, those make us beautiful and unique and different. And it's not about trying to get rid of our imprints, right? But like integrating those imprints. But I think that recognition, which is such an individual experience of like really coming to that place of like, okay, I am different and I'm special. And like, I see that. And I think that that's, you talked about how much you love to talk to people, and like talking to people there's words that are exchanged, but there's so much more.
Oh, that's what I love about it. The word, it's the feeling I get when it's like, I tell Mike sometimes it feels like with certain people, but a lot more people than you'd think. It feels like we're tethered, like heart to heart. And we're just like, I don't really know what's happening, but I love it. That's what it feels like. And I seek it out, wherever I go, because I walk away and I feel restored. So
and we get to reflect back like the brilliance that we see in the other, but also I think there's something really valuable about us, like holding that place of understanding for ourselves in relationship to others too, and that gives permission. Like it's okay to, of course I have long lists of insecurities and long lists of things, right? I'm human. And I also try to not shy away from dimming my light because that's just who I am and what I have to offer. And I want to, and as I try and cultivate that light in myself, it's like with the intention of supporting others to also connect with theirs and like help that, fan their flame or whatever it is.
Oh, that reminds me of one of the things somebody said to me that hit me. I was so insecure about music and my musical gifts through my childhood because of imprinting. But I went to this little baby. It was not impressive. Let me just say this, but it was just like a few composers locally. And I didn't even think of myself as a composer showing up, and we shared some stuff we had written and happened to be at a college. And I shared my piece and I was like, don't worry, it's horrible. It'll, really doing a nice job modeling what I'm doing. Well, nobody will ever sing this. This is just an idea, And he said, hey, Katie, remember, like, we're all pegs in a light bright. And you're the only one who can shine your light as bright as it can be shined. Nobody else can have that. And it reminds me of like how, like what self-love really looks like, feels like, and that it feels like something you don't necessarily do yourself. It's like a balance of leaning into the field and allowing that sort of the ego about self-love to melt a little and to trust that it's about being like that vessel of love, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know how to put words to this, what you're
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
the inhale, exhale of love. You know, you can't hold it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's where, I don't know, it's just where you're putting me right now.
Yeah.
Just a very reflective place.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Oh my gosh. So I'm curious, like, as we, you know, I feel like we're both in a way in a similar path of stepping into a public space, a public field where we weren't necessarily comfortable before because something is asking for it, you know? And I'm wondering if you could share something about bravery and what that looks like for you, or how to, especially if you're potentially looking for a passion and it looks different than something you've done before. There's an element of courage and bravery to stepping into that position. Like, what is bravery for you? Let me make the most broad question I could think of.
I think bravery for me is being in the discomfort. It's just like sitting in it. Just sitting in it. Like, just
That's the perfect face to describe exactly what that feels like. I know exactly.
Yeah, it really is. And, you know, it comes in so many different forms. So many different forms, right? Like the bravery it takes to be the first one to start a conversation that's challenging. Right? Like we all know that that is essential for healthy relationships, and yet it's so hard to do. And it takes just like being in the discomfort, or the bravery that it takes to say yes, to show up for somebody when like they are going through hell. Right?
And you know
like,
it'll be hard.
Oh yeah. Like, do I really want to, like, oh, my life is, I have to, you know, like there's that, or like the bravery of, I mean, there's so many different examples of it, but for me, I'll share with you this tattoo,
Which says yes.
Which says yes, yes. And I got this tattoo with my dear friend Allie, who died, and she was 9 days before she died, and she had this dream about, you know, her vision was about find your yes and then do it, right? Like find your yes and then go for it. She passed at 39. She had 5 children under 10. She was,
oh my gosh,
you know, just really tragic experience. And I got to be with her and her family through the process. But this is really helpful for me. So this rainbow is the rainbow bridge of birth and death. You know, the yes is surrounded by this rainbow. And it's a reminder for me that that is my work, right? My work is around supporting people during the comings and the goings, those big places, right? And it helps me have courage. It helps me connect with being brave, because I also connect with her, and I connect with how brave she had to be to let go. Right? Like that is the ultimate surrender that I can't comprehend as a mom with children and all those things, right? Like she struggled beyond measure to find that place, and then her time came and she let go, right? And so that is helpful for me. And one of the things that is helpful for me around so a big thing that it's helpful for me around bravery is remembering and thinking about all the other people who I know who are brave.
Tapping into that ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not alone.
Yeah. Or I don't have to do it that way, right? Like this person is being brave in this way, and this is their calling, and they're doing that. And I'm like, okay, that's taken care of. But also like, I don't have to do that. But I do, as a human on this planet right now, have to be brave and be, you know, like I think about my kids, and I think about excuse me, like what's coming for them in the next
Right.
20, 40, 50, 100 years. Like it's just,
I'm like 5 years.
I
don't know.
know 5
Right?
years, like everything, there's so much that feels unstable,
Yeah.
ecologically unstable on so many different levels, right? There's so many brave humans that are out there speaking about all of these things.
Right.
And so I think about my kids a lot, and they help me be brave because I know they're going to have to be brave, and they're going to learn, our kids learn more by what we do than what we say.
Right.
So
Right.
I try
So
and
you
hold
step into that.
that. I try.
That's amazing. There, one of the things, and if I already said this, I'm sorry, but I'm actually not sorry because I think it's such a gorgeous idea that's hitting me. Like, was it Kate? The woman who said Kate McGuire. I thought it was McGuire, but I didn't want to say.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just now, but
Yeah.
I'm like, what she said that rarely, and forgive me if I say this incorrectly, so correct me, but rarely is the person who needs the help the person who you do it.
Yeah,
you do it. It's
right
about
there,
like when you receive help from a person, that person is really the one that you can give it back to in the future. And I know that was not accurate, but one thing that it makes me think about is what you said about bravery and trusting the ecosystem of people around you who are doing their work, and you're not alone in that, and like when you're brave for your kids, somebody is brave. Oh man, this is tough. Like for a dying, whatever, parent, and being present to the family so that deep healing is possible, and at the same time.
I know. It's so profound. I know it touches those tears and touches those places because we can't, as mothers, imagine. I cannot, as a mother, imagine having to leave my children to kind of not fend for themselves, but then we come back to ecology.
Yeah.
And we come back to that. I mean, that's like the ultimate example of those we help are not the ones who help us. Right? Like the letting go and the being brave to know that like the ecology of the father or the other parent and the community and the family is going to like hold your children and not be able to do,
It's incredible.
We don't know when our time, we don't know when our time or why. We don't know when or why, but there's some, I have to believe that there's some bigger plan that I am not in control of.
Could you be? Could
right?
you fix that?
I wish I could answer
I would love to put you
question.
in charge.
I know. Yeah, no thanks. But, right? Like there's some higher plan.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of folks going through grief can find deep solace in if there is a deep sense of spirituality or a deep sense of, a connection with a religion. That is like the field, right? That's what people can like lean into to be like, okay, there's something bigger, and I just have to surrender to. There's no other choice.
Yeah.
But to
thank you for sharing that tattoo.
Yeah. Yeah. So she helps me, and sometimes it gets me into trouble. Someone's asking, do you want another beer? Yeah.
Yes. I could see that. I know. I need a no one.
Yeah.
Stop saying yes to things.
Yeah. Well, there's that too.
Yeah. I hear sometimes in some of the worlds I've traversed in my past and communities that life is hard, and it's hard to do these things. It's hard to be in relationships. It's hard to be in families and all that. And I don't know if this is 100% true for me, but I have this feeling that when you practice joy or you connect to that thread between the beads,
Mm-hmm.
or you lean into the field,
Mm-hmm.
it's actually easier
Yeah.
over time. And
Yeah.
and the people who are so good, like you, who are so good at shining your light and like tending to these like almost like nodes, these intense peak moments, and creating like soothing there, that there must be something that makes that. I'm wondering, is there something where you're like, yeah, this is good, like it's beautiful, and it feeds you, and it's not hard in the way that I think we're afraid.
Yeah.
It's hard. I don't even know if that's a question.
Yeah.
But I think I'm trying to, I have an intuition that I want to encourage people to not use that word so much, that life is always so hard when it is. That's not what I mean. But it's like when you find that pathway, maybe through the mycelium or whatever in your ecosystem, it's not necessarily hard. It's work, but it's also really beautiful and maybe easier the more you practice that. Does that resonate with you?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think about this idea that like multiple truths exist at the same time. Like as humans, we can only speak to one layer of truth at a time, and we'll say something, but it doesn't mean it cancels out everything else.
Totally.
Right. And it's like tricky, because then it's like, oh, but you said that thing. It was like, oh, but that thing, the opposite of that is also true.
Yeah.
I just, and so I think about that with this idea of like life being hard, and like, yeah, life is hard. And so that reminds me of like the other piece of this rainbow. So the rainbow is really this idea that each color is like a different experience or emotional state. Right? So there's like fear, hard, joy, delight, confusion, like all of that is all present at the same time. That helps me tremendously, right? To like not cancel anything out or say that none of those things apply or whatever, but the experience that folks have in that experience of life being hard, like that is true. And then I think, oh, the Malabi, like they're in that really hard place.
Yeah.
But that will shift. And what we need, I think, in those places is support. Like that's the essential thing, right? Because what is hard? Hard is like too much weight on us.
Yeah.
There's too much responsibility. It's too much, hard things happening over. I mean, there are some people that just have hard things happen over and over and over again. And the filters through which how we interpret those hard things are usually, I believe, related back to those early experiences and the tools that we developed or not with how to expand our capacity to be with the hard. Right?
Interesting. Yeah. Just want to let that sit.
Expanding that capacity.
Expanding the capacity and like allowing things to be true at the same time, meaning that, one of the things that makes me want to ask you is how you must be so good at holding space for non-attachment. Because everything is always changing in your life.
Yeah.
I'm curious, and again,
That's a big one.
I know, like you must be, like you must have toned that muscle so well, which is so important because everything you're doing is transitional.
Yeah.
Do people notice that in you? Like, you don't seem to care about things that people attach to. I don't know. Like what is your relationship to non-attachment on any level?
That's a really good question. I don't know if, I don't know what people notice or don't, but I know that my mom's famous line is expect the unexpected. Like that's my mom's famous line.
Really? That's her line?
That's her line. So like my whole childhood, that was her line.
Wow.
And I traveled the world when I was a kid and got to do all these things. And there's something about travel that really tunes us into both, being in the flow of the unexpected, and also tunes us into like there's some higher guidance that is guiding us, right? When we can kind of tune into that. I'm excited about your upcoming family trip. That's super fun.
Yeah.
And so I think I definitely got like an extremeness,
No kidding.
especially being on call. So as a home birth midwife, we're on call 24/7, 365, right? Like we offer this incredible care that is very unique. Is very different than obstetric care. We're on call, and I have this new partner, trying to figure out how to be sustainable in that.
Yeah.
But the point being, like, I never know what my day is going to look like, right? It could just change at any point, and my children also then never know.
Yeah.
So there's something about the non-attachment, which I think teaches us about adaptation, all right, which kind of circles us back to like ecology and this fascination that I have around how nature evolves and how adaptation happens on a cellular level, and it happens through like chance. Like, the way that DNA replicates or whatever, and how the ecology is constantly putting out new information for how to adapt to different environmental challenges, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like the DNA within plants is always changing and adapting to withstand to less water or withstand a beetle or
More
whatever
heat.
more heat, whatever. Like this natural ecology is constantly changing, and we as humans are also constantly adapting. And the more that we can be flexible and not attached to the outcome, the more malleable we can be, and the more we can, the less rigidity, because rigidity creates constriction. Constriction creates suffering or whatever, right? And so kind of like freeing that up. And I think definitely having, spent my life around birth and death, I have like an extreme example of that. But
No kidding.
I think that's helpful for everybody. And I think that's part of why I'm, curious and encouraging and have different exercises and stuff for like contemplating our own mortality. Like, okay, like anything could change at any point. And how do we want to be in the now in relationship to what could or could not be? Right. What happens then doesn't totally matter. Right. What happens now is like, okay, how can we just, which of course is always easier said than done.
It sure is. But it's also the dance between, the open-mindedness we can have, like the dreaming we can have, and also the acceptance that we have no idea what is possible. I don't know. There's one thing, there's so many things I'm thinking about based on what you just said, but this popped up in my mind in your book, like when you're present, and I think this is correct, when you're present with somebody who is dying, always hold the possibility for a miracle.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to admit that I didn't do that with my father's death, and not my mom's either, because they had terminal illnesses. And but even the idea, and I have some shame around that now as I process that. But even just the idea of anything is possible, not necessarily a miraculous shift in the natural death process, but like the non-attachment to anything, and how that, like, holding space for that when you're so siloed into hard and dark, like also the unknown set is still out there. You just don't know, what the ripples of this and the healing that can happen later, especially between parents or any loved ones who have passed, It's like, I'm not sure what I'm saying. I'm just sort of processing like what that looks like to live so present, but also keep the field of of all things open. It's pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, to model that to your kids is, man, they're so lucky. Even though I'm sure that's hard for them. I imagine that that's a huge gift to be giving, you know.
I hope so. I try.
I know you do.
I do my best.
I know you do.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, but that field of possibility.
Yeah.
That field of possibility, which also like you're talking about the ego, like it removes us from the equation of like, I know what's happening here, or I really don't know what's happening here.
Yeah.
Or, you know, this idea of like death, and is death just the end, or is death the beginning of something else, or whatever it is. But I have definitely witnessed that in being with the dying who are dying, that there's this possibility that there's this holding on to that possibility, right? And it's like, as they're going through the veil space, they're still connected to those who are here on this side. And there's, especially in that piece of like, all is possible, multiple things happening at the same time. Like they can both be preparing to go and holding on for dear life to those that they love.
Yeah.
Right. And that it's our job, I believe, to just be with them and like follow their lead and be this, chameleon, because there are moments when they might want to talk about the going or the fears that are there or the excitements that's there or whatever is there.
Yeah.
And then they, may just shift into this other space of like, oh, and I'm, doing this treatment and I'm holding on to this, this idea of a possible miracle cure. And the miracle cures do happen too.
Yeah, they do.
It really does happen. But not holding on, not having attachment to that miracle cure either. Right. And like being in this space of really being honest with ourselves that death is a natural part of the cycle of life. Like, how do we, there's a lot there.
There's so much there. I know. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'm curious about your opinions on the role of the body as a sensor. How and that can look like emotions, it can look like sensations or feeling your body when you're present to people. What is the role of that awareness, your own personal physical experience when you're present with people? Would you say that people should tune into that more or less, or with your work, what's the value of being present to your body?
Yeah, that's a good question. I just listened to this fantastic podcast yesterday with Zach Bush and Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you know Zach Bush.
I do.
He's really brilliant human too. And he was talking about, our bodies as these antennas and how we gather, information. And there was something he was talking about that I resonate with, and that goes back to my teachings, the things that I've learned around connecting with the earth and connecting with the sky, and being this, that our bodies are these, I don't even know what the word is, but these kind of tethers between the two, that we have this beautiful ability within us as humans. We have this consciousness, which makes us different than, consciousness of our own selves, right? Which kind of distinguishes us from others in the animal kingdom or whatever. But this ability to hold this this space in between, this connection between Father Sky, I think of it, and this like higher realms of consciousness and awareness and out into the universe, and then like Mother Earth being really stable and strong and anchoring. And we as humans do the both. We're connected with the both. Our bodies, like our physical bodies, not just, Zach Bush was talking about our biology.
Yeah.
Like our biology is connected with both. And then there's our soul and all these different places, right? But I think that, there's something so sacred about our bodies. And there's something so profound about being alive And part of what being alive is having a body.
Yeah.
Right? It's having a body. Like, we're not just spiritual beings. We are physical beings that are also spiritual and all these different things. And so I think, one of my tools, I learned this really cool exercise from Ray Castellino again around coming into my center, coming into this mid space. And the mid space is like in between, it makes me want to sit up just talking about it, but like in between my my sacrum and my occiput, right? Like, there's some place in my body. I'm also a practitioner of craniosacral therapy. Craniosacral therapy is super duper cool. And, our cerebral spinal fluid, like, there's these ways, there are parts of our bodies that are like where matter meets spirit. Like, our bodies are vessels for the interconnection of matter and spirit. Wow. That's my understanding. And so I think that when I am with people in birth and in death, I definitely do what I can to both be in connection with my own body. And when I say in connection with my own body, there's something really important about when we step in to care for others, that we don't actually move outside of ourselves to do that. Yeah, so I think we're talking about this idea of like being embodied in the presence of others, right? And how can we be of greatest service and using our bodies as a way of being in service. And I think sometimes we have different ways of being in our bodies. And I observe that in myself, and I observe that in others. And some of us come forward with our energy. That's been me in my life, right? Yeah, we have that. We have a similar way with that. Like, there's a coming forward with my energy, and there are others that are, have a way of being neutral and kind of staying in a neutral place. And then there are others who tend to pull back into themselves and do more of like a retreating energetically, right? And so it's this interesting, I find it interesting to observe like how that affects those around us.
Yeah.
Right. Or when I'm in the presence of someone who's forward with their energy, I find I have to kind of pull mine back to like balance it out. Right. Or if someone is back with theirs and I pull mine forward, or whatever, this dance that we do.
Yeah.
And I think that something really that has been valuable for me in my life is learning how to stay connected with my mid space so that my energy field is not influencing too much those around me.
Interesting.
And that's a really interesting one, especially when we talk about how to show up for others, or how to be of service to others, and or care for others, or, if somebody's grieving, then we want to kind of step in and help them. We want to pull them out of it. We want to do all, them. We want to do these things. And those things actually may be a disservice. And that I find myself, when I'm in a space of needing support, the most useful support is someone who can be there for me, but first and foremost, like, remain grounded in themselves. So,
yeah. Meaning they're aware, they're grounded, they're present with their body and not outside of it, like you
reaching
said.
Or pulling in some way.
It sounds like a practice that would take time, but a worthy one. Thank you for sharing that. It's really interesting. I'm sure anybody listening to this who's ever been in the presence of somebody who needs support, or is a person who needed support, probably could feel the effectiveness or non-effectiveness of different types of physical styles and presence. So,
just tuning ourselves to be aware of those subtle things that are so profound.
Totally. And now nonverbal.
Yeah.
And also the impact our energy has on other people, the influence, and just having a tap on that.
Yeah.
And keeping it appropriately bounded.
Yeah.
Bounded,
Yeah.
just because I tend to come in full force, and I have been. I know that's not always helpful
Yeah.
in certain situations. So
Yeah.
that's so helpful to hear, like the awareness of the field.
And sometimes it is needed that we come
Yeah.
in, right? And sometimes it is needed that we pull back.
Yeah, but it's like there
whatever
are
it is.
levels of
Yeah.
presence that are available to us. It's just not it's not always our resting state,
Yeah.
that's needed. So our natural state. So I appreciate you sharing that. I have a question that's unfair, but I ask everybody this because the intention of the podcast is to help me, but anybody listening connect to joy. I mean, we are in a place, as we've already discussed, where it's really, really easy to disconnect from the ecology around us and from layers of support. So what would you say to somebody who is like, I don't even know what that is, or I haven't felt anything like what you guys are talking about, What would you say to them if you could say something?
Yeah. I think I would say that you're actually more resilient than you think you are. And that whatever, like I would connect with a deep sense of compassion for whatever it was in that person's experience or in that person's life that created that imprint of feeling like they don't know who they are or how to connect with joy, right? Like a deep sense of compassion, because I'm like, whoa, that's really hard. Talking about life is hard.
Right.
That's
right.
real. That's real.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there, I come back to this blueprint place and I'm like, okay, maybe that has been your experience on this human plane, right? Like the experiences that you likely had from the very, very beginning were not optimal in order to foster that felt sense of safety. I think safety is a really big one, right? Feeling safe in the world.
Right.
If we can feel safe in the world, then we can let down our defenses in order to feel joy. Right. But like safety is foundational. Totally. It's like lower chakra, right? Like if we cannot feel safe, then we can't actually soften.
You can't let things in.
Yeah. There's like a guarding,
right,
a protecting of oneself, right? So I think I would, speak to that place of like, oh, that need for protection, like accurately reflect that back versus being like, no, you're fine. It's like, no, actually I'm not fine. And these are some of the reasons why. And then, encourage them to find support. Support, to just be with those layers. And then, the way that I like to do that work is by reconnecting with that sense of the soul and that blueprint place, because I really believe that each and every one of us started in the before of this human experience with grace and peace. Like when I connect with the before, and I've done so many somatic sessions with people and supporting them to do this exact thing. And there's something super profound about connecting with the before of incarnation. I was like, oh, what was there? What was there? Like, what was the energetic frequency of that place before we got tangled up in all the hard here? Because it is really hard to be human at this time. Has been for a very, very long time. I don't think that's how it always has been. I think there was a time somewhere back in the eons where there was a more harmonious ecological interconnectivity of the human realms and the natural realms. I feel that in my soul. And I don't know if that's something that, past lives people talk about or whatever, I don't know, but there's something in me that like knows that to be true. And then there's something in me that believes we're going back there. Like I really feel like we're on this really long trajectory of, like my grandpa used to say, the darkest hour is just before the light.
Right.
The darkest hour is just before the light. So
it's just a long hour.
It's a long hour, and it might be a whole lifetime.
Right.
It might be a whole lifetime of someone not finding that place. But like a lifetime is a really short amount of time in the experience of humanity on this, on this plane or whatever. So just like, it's okay. Almost like it's okay.
Yeah.
If you can't find it, it's okay.
It's okay because this isn't the only thing. This isn't all there is.
Yeah.
Like, there's that. I love that before time. Like tapping into that vibration. That's really interesting and peaceful.
Yeah. In this podcast, Zach Bush was talking about like being with people with near-death experiences. I had one of those when I was young, and I saw the light, and I was ready to go towards it. I was on my way. I was like, this is total peace. And some energy brought me back. I'm not sure what brought me back. Because the next thing I remembered, I was, back. But there's, so there's the before, but then there's the after, and there's the now. And I think, support is the key. Like support is that thread, and having interconnectivity with other humans and interconnectivity with the earth.
Yeah.
So like doing things that connect us with nature. And obviously easier for those of us who live in rural places where we can get out more. But for those who are living in urban environments or whatever it is, like whether it's houseplants or whether it's the sun coming through your window, or whether it's just walking in the park or picking getting flowers or whatever it is, like connecting with that vibrational frequency of nature, it does something to our bodies.
Yes. Yeah, it does. Thank you for that and sharing your experience. That is wild. How old were you when you had that?
14.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's a very young age.
Very pivotal time.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. Is there anything you want to say here or ask or whatever, as you have the floor, and just out of gratitude for what you offered to us and to me today? Is there anything you'd like to just say?
Yeah. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, of course.
I'd love to just share a little bit about kind of what's coming forward for me.
Please.
I'm in this big transitional place. Again, I've been a birth midwife since I was very, very young. And I'm transitioning out of birth midwifery and going more into this death end of the veil in terms of my future calling. But this book is really exciting. So you reached out to me, I was saying, the day that it came out, which was super cool, synchronistic
so awesome.
timing. I was like, oh, okay, I hear you. I hear you, God. I need to step forward into this place and be comfortable with the mic and all those things. But the book is, I think, very valuable. I think it has a lot of value.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, I think it has value for people who are wanting to, show up. And it's also a doorway into this standing at the veil initiative. It's like a global support initiative that I'm birthing, that I'm super excited about. And when I say I mean I as a vessel for, okay, I accept this is my work.
Right.
But I have like lots of forthcoming courses, and I'm going to be teaching a veil walker course. So when I was supporting my friend Allie, I had a vision one night, kind of like you had that night of all night I was up, and I had this vision, and it was like, if I had been born into a village, let's say, where people were named by what they do, I would be veil walker.
Oh.
Like that's my role.
Yeah.
That's what I do. That's my job. That's what I do. I support the coming and going of souls, and specifically those who love them, right? Like that's my job. And so I'm super excited to bring the things that I have been cultivating in my life and create a curriculum for others who are interested in going forth. Like when you reached out to me, right? Who are wanting to go forth into walking with those at the veil and like understanding more about all the things that we've talked about and cultivating the capacity to be with folks in the unknown. That's the greatest thing. And so I'm, got a practitioner training that's coming up and then more trainings for lay people and lots more books coming and all kinds of things that are on the horizon. And I'm talk about a leap of faith. I'm just jumping.
I bow
and
down.
Trusting.
Yeah. Good. Just as somebody who's in your presence, good. Like we need veil walkers everywhere. And and I think honestly, this is about how to show up for the dying and their loved ones, but there is so much wisdom in here for anybody on how to listen to people, how to be present, how to ask for support, how to receive. There are things I'm like, I wish this just came with life, this book. And I mean that. Like, everybody's like, you don't get a manual on how to live, but maybe there are some, right? And I'm so grateful that you're helping us find words and practices that I feel like joy, in my perception of joy, are expansive and healing for the practitioner and the receiver of the practice. Yeah. And the ripples are unknown, but undoubtedly positive and powerful. And so, oh my gosh, thank you for jumping in, and taking that brave leap of faith to go into that realm. It's terrifying, but it's also like the best stuff isn't an easy walk in the park, right? Yeah. Like that, when you hear that voice, to jump in and trust it and respect what you're doing. So thank you, and don't stop and keep going. Thank you for telling us about it and sharing so much of your heart with us today. So honestly, it's like I can feel that the people that you have served are just
they're with me. They're a part of the fabric They're part of the fabric of who I am.
Yeah. Thanks for carrying them with you.
Yeah. This is their legacy too, right? There's so many stories that are interwoven and all the folks who have supported me and just that family that I supported yesterday and being able to share their story and, just these little, I'm so grateful to all of my teachers for sure. And just to say, I'm at the very baby beginning. Mm-hmm. So like I have this, speaking of being in big places, I have this big vision of how to help repair that human ecology and help teach others how to help them remember. Right? Because we all have that knowingness. It's a part of our blueprint, is that knowingness of how to be interconnected with each other and with nature.
We know how to do
We know how to do that. It's a part of who we are. Mm-hmm. It's a part of who we are. And so it's really about this like remembering. And so I'm excited to connect with you right now, just at this like very early stages. This is my first podcast.
That's awesome.
My first early stages. And then,
I love how you have no experience with this yet, because I have no idea if we're good at this.
You're doing great. You are awesome.
But it's like cool to walk these first, like what you said before, knowing that other people are being brave in their own way on their path. It gives you peace. Like it gives me so much peace to be just trying these things alongside you.
Stepping in. Right?
What a treat. Like what a precious gift to be a part of your ecology.
Thank you.
It's so cool to get to know you. I feel super honored. I'm really glad that I thought about being a social worker for 5 minutes.
The stars align. Yeah.
Thank you for calling me.
So cool.
Yeah.
You never know how it's going to circle back around.
No,
right?
that's why it's so fun. Sometimes it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this has been fun.
Sometimes the joy really expands.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing your joy with me today. And I wish you all of the good energy and support that you need to make your path thrive,
I receive that.
Take it in.
I receive that.
Good.
I welcome that. And I invite folks to sign up for my newsletter.
We'll include it.
We'll
put it in the show notes.
So I've got the, standingattheveil.com, howtoshowupthebook.com. But the newsletter is just going to be a way to be connected as the things unfold and birth forth.
Cool. That'll be fun to watch. We'll do that too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah. And thank you, Mike, for your support. You're a super solid layer of support back there.
I know, right?
For your woman and for us. And thank you.
Yeah,
feel your presence.
This interview filled me with wonder. I keep thinking about the human ecosystem. I hadn't thought that humans are actually meant to be just like a grove of aspen trees, aware, connected, able to nourish malnourished individuals. And for humans, that nourishment can be offered through layers of support, direct and otherwise. And now I'm thinking more about what support actually means. There's the support from our ecosystem, our village, but also the support of the spiritual field. I feel so moved when I think about the idea of leaning into the field and letting go. According to Moriah's mentor, you can lean into and trust your connection to the spiritual world, the blueprint of who you were before you entered into this human form. And then you can be a vessel for love and support. We do so much thinking, don't we, around the how, what, when, and why of ourselves. How to fix others, how to ease their pain, how to fix ourselves, how to ease our own pain. But what if our left brain focus isn't actually the best way to find the support we need? I wonder, especially in times of transformation and discomfort, if analytical reasoning is like using a thermometer to measure a person's grief. Moriah says, "My job as a midwife is to open up and let God come through my hands." I wonder, what would happen if I said to myself each day, my job as a person is to open up and let God, or whatever name you like here, come through my hands, come through my voice. I feel a shift in my body even when I consider that sentence. I feel a letting go of the outcome, an acceptance of things as they are, and a peace. Moriah reminds me that joy is experienced when we soften and feel safe. This relates directly to the thing she most believes in, that support is the key. Our purpose can be tuned into supporting each other, tending to each other's light, and trusting that our particular unique magic keeps our ecosystem strong, and that we could, down the road, trust that we'll receive the support we need from the very same ecosystem we have tended to. I'm willing to bet that joy thrives in ecosystems like this. Perhaps that's why an aspen grove captivates the hearts of photographers and artists, because there is joy there. I think I'll meditate on the concept of the mala beads for a long time to come. I'm thinking about the string that holds our lives together, that perhaps the string is joy, love, our ecosystem, or our spiritual blueprint, perhaps all of it. And I will work to trust the strength of that string as I lean in bravely to support my ecosystem with the unique light that only I can shine. So, thank you Moriah, for being exactly who you are in our ecosystem. What a blessing to know you are being brave for all of us. Hey, hope you enjoyed today's discussion. I ask each guest to share a song that brings them joy. See the show notes below for a song from today's guest. For more music, you can also find a link to the Joyful Forklift Spotify playlist. Help us continue to spread joy by subscribing to or following the channel. To sign up for our newsletter and to learn more about us, visit joyfulforklift.com.